I'm Tony Keat, the Christmas Light Guy. In this 5-minute tips and tricks tutorial, I'll share with you some things that I've learned to help with the successful and hopefully less stressful holiday display. Let's get started. First, let's talk about Mother Nature. Don't underestimate Mother Nature. She can be brutal. I live in the Midwest near Cincinnati, Ohio, and we can get 50-mile-an-hour winds, driving rain, snow, ice, hail, below zero temperatures, and plus 60-degree temperatures, and sometimes we get all those conditions within a couple days. Expect the worst and plan for it. Make sure you plan ahead and allow plenty of time. What do I mean? Well, decide how you're going to lay out and mount your props ahead of time. Don't wait till the last minute to do this. I always underestimate how long it will take to set up my display. My house has stone, brick, wood, and metal gutters. So I use everything from 3D printed gutter hangers for my PVC house outlines to permanently mounted eye hooks to mount 1/8 inch steel cable for larger props such as a matrix, to smaller props mounted in brick. I hot glue cable tie mounts to the brick, and this seems to work very well. For your larger props mounted on the ground, I highly suggest using 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch rebar stakes. These are steel and they will not break. I've used the hollow garden stakes before, these, and the wind has literally snapped them in half. So I wouldn't recommend these, and they bend quite easily. For smaller props mounted on the ground, I found these 24-inch fiberglass 3/16 rods that I use for mounting my piece stakes, but I also use them for mounting other items on the ground. They work very well. Next, let's talk about extensions and network cables. The first tip is not to use cheap extensions. I've always had issues with the flat wire extensions like this one. They are fine to drive one low-density prop, but when I try to connect 2 or 3 props together, I always have data issues. Use good quality extensions, ones that are heavy gauge like this one. Next, try to eliminate extensions and use the shortest extensions possible. There are a couple ways to do this. First is placement of the controller. I place my controller where I can get it closest to a group of props, thus reducing the number of extensions and using the shortest extensions possible. Second is, if you have props that are always daisy chained to other props, why not just go ahead and hardwire them together? That will reduce an extension or 2. Another tip for extension is to spray WD-40 into the connector ends. WD stands for water displacement, and it will keep out the water and help make a better connection and also help prevent corrosion. Talking about connections, I always solder and heat sink connections where possible. The solder sleeves, like these, work well in a pinch or quick repair, but they're hard to get a good connection every time, especially with the smaller gauge wires. I've never had a solder connection fail, but I've had many of the solder sleeves fail. My next tip is to use good quality network cables. Last year, I had more issues with cheap network cables than anything. I replaced 3 or 4 network cables and my data issues went away. This brings me to my next topic, cable management for your electrical wires and your guide wires, especially where there may be foot traffic. Tripping on or just kicking a wire can break the wire or do damage to the prop. That's what happened to several of my network cables. People will walk around your yard, delivery people, Amazon, FedEx, UPS, mailman, or curious people that just want to see your display closer, no matter how many keep out signs you have. So use electrical tape or zip ties to do cable management. For guide wires, use caution tape or somehow make the guide wires visible so that you can see it at night. Cable ties, zip ties, they're your friend and they're cheap. Strain relief everything, especially your prop cables, on the inputs, outputs. One other tip is to check your wires on your connector pigtails. So reach into, open up your controller, reach in and grab the wires and pull on the connector. If you can pull the wires out, these are not tight enough. You'll need to go back and retighten them. My final tip is, if you use xLights or Falcon Player, FPP, don't forget to donate. Yes, it is free software, but there are people that work on it full time, and it's enterprise level software, and new features are being released all year long. Please help support the xLight and FPP community. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and learned something new from it. If you did and would like to see more tutorials like this, please like this video and subscribe to my channel, The Christmas Light Guy. Remember, it doesn't cost anything to subscribe. All you have to do is press the subscribe button below.